Okay. We're live, Donna.
Okay. So we are going to start with our usual Sunday morning prayers. If you have the white folder, it's the first page of text. And if you have the gold prayer book, we'll start on page 34. Right above where it says daily prayers, we'll say the Shakyamuni Buddha mantra 3 times.
Yata mune mune
Maha Munaye Soha Tayata Mune Mune Maha Munaye Soha Tayata Mune Mune Maha Munaye Soha. And now we'll say the 4 immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And now we'll turn to the bottom of page 37, where we have the 4 immeasurables in Tibetan, and we'll chant that. Sem chen tam che de wa dang che wei gyu dang den par gyur chik du ngel dang du ngel gi gyu dang drel war gyur chik du ngel me pe de wa dang mi drel war gyur chik ne ring chok dang ni dang drel wei tang nyang la ne par gyur chik. And now we'll chant Chenrezig's mantra 8 times and Green Tara's mantra 7 times. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Tare Tu Re Soha, 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 Om Tare Tu Re Soha. Okay, the children can go to their classes now.
A second. So everybody just take a few minutes to say hello to your neighbor. You can walk around the room.
Okay. So you might have been expecting Geshe Sangpo because we thought he was going to be teaching a few more Sundays, but things have changed in his schedule. So it takes two of us to even begin to replace Geshe Sangpo. So I guess we'll start with some meditation. We're going to talk later today about attachment and equanimity, and we have a great little clip from The Light of the Path when a student asked a question of Rinpoche. So we'll watch that and do some talking, but we're going to first kind of settle our minds and then lay a little bit of groundwork and then go ahead. So we'll start with just a little bit of silent meditation, and then Jill's going to lead us in a little bit of analytic meditation.
So I'll begin talking after you quiet your minds for a while. So just get yourself into a comfortable position and settle your breath. Settle your minds, settle your body. with your minds nice and settled. We're going to do an equanimity meditation. If you're very, very new, this may be something you've never heard, and it could be quite moving. It can be in anything it can happen. It can be interesting, a new way to look at things. If you've been coming for a little while and you've heard this topic before, you may ask yourself, why are we doing the same meditation over and over? I've heard this one before. I know this one. Can we do something different? Kind of questions might enter your mind. But if you've been coming here for quite some time, you know why we do this over and over. Because most of us have not realized equanimity. We still have a separation between friends, enemies, and strangers. So we understand calmly, happily, and peacefully why we revisit topics in Buddhism over and over. Just like visiting old friends, we want to see them again and again. We want to enrich the relationship, get to know it on a deeper level. And when we study different topics and we come back to something familiar, we may have a deeper level of understanding. It becomes quite rich. So to consider ourselves dear, we usually do not have to enter into meditation. We cherish ourselves greatly. When we see ourselves suffering, we have no problem in wishing to escape that suffering. The problem lies in not cherishing others. The ability to cherish others has to be cultivated in meditation. So we begin this meditation by visualizing someone you like very much. Just create this image in your mind and try to hold on to it. A consistent person you feel tender towards, you care for. And now superimpose the image on top of it of someone towards whom you are neutral. This may be someone who opened a door for you, or someone you passed on the street, someone who doesn't cultivate a strong emotion one way or the other. You might imagine that you could get to know this person until you considered them a friend. So now alternate between the two images, back and forth, until you value the person toward whom you are neutral as much as the friend. Don't worry if you don't get there, just try. It's very important to just let the mind relax and make an effort. Now superimpose in succession images of a number of people toward whom you are neutral. Maybe even people you saw when you walked in this morning that you don't know. You feel neutral towards them. You have no anger, you have no love, familiar love, you just feel neutral towards them. Superimpose these images until you value each of them as much as the greatest of your friends. And now let an image arise in your mind of someone you might have difficulty with. You can use different words, an enemy, or think of someone that you have difficulty with. You can have great difficulty with them, or just sometimes it bothers your mind. And let this image arise in your mind. And see if you can begin to cultivate, to just touch the idea of this difficult person becoming closer and closer. Maybe becoming a friend one day. Maybe there was a misunderstanding, and once discovered, you feel tender towards them, and they become a friend. You can even imagine friends, when difficulties arise, become potential enemies. Let your mind open to all the possibilities of moving between the friend arising and falling, and the enemy rising and falling, and the neutral person, the stranger. And see if you can touch the idea of all of these people becoming the same to you in your heart. The same tenderness arises, the same love, the same caring. It can be much more disruptive to think about friends as having been enemies than it is to think about enemies as having been friends. No matter how difficult it is to think of a hated enemy as having been a close friend in a recent lifetime, it's more disruptive to think of my close friend as having been my enemy. With regard to neutral people, it can be shocking, a whole new perspective to think that 2 lifetimes ago we were very close friends, and now by the force of our actions we don't even know each other. We don't care about each other. We neglect each other, or we're indifferent. So while we think about these people moving back and forth in our meditation today, we can open it wider, if we're comfortable, to all of our lifetimes. Back and forth, friend, enemy, stranger. Can we equalize these emotions? Can we begin to touch the idea that we can feel equal? just spend a moment in silence thinking about this idea. Now it's Donna's turn.
Okay, before we go to this clip, I'm going to read a little bit from this book by Lama Yeshe. Oh, well, you can't see him. He is up here to our left as we of His Holiness, as you face the altar. And Lama Yeshe, if you're new here, he is one of the founders of our parent sister organization, FPMT. And this book comes from a retreat that he led. So this is a little bit about equanimity. The logical reason for feeling that all sentient beings are equal is that equally all sentient beings seek happiness, and not one, yourself included, wants to be unhappy. Think, all sentient beings want to be happy, and no sentient being, myself included, wants to suffer. Whenever I experience an unpleasant feeling, I want it to stop immediately. Although basically all sentient beings equally desire happiness and freedom from suffering, out of the countless billions of beings, my fickle mind selects just one to make happy and forgets the others. When I encounter someone who agitates me, I see him as an enemy and want to give him harm. And when an enemy finds good fortune, I get jealous. Such a mind is unrealistic, unbalanced, and extreme. It's as if two equally hungry and thirsty people come to your door. You look at them both, but choose only one. You can come in, and tell the other one, you can't come in, go away. You know that they're in exactly the same predicament, that they're both extremely hungry and thirsty, but your extreme, narrow mind picks one. Come in. I love you. Put on some nice, clean clothes, have something to eat and drink, and completely rejects the other. This is the action of a narrow, silly, extreme mind. It all comes from the misconception of attachment, an unbalanced mind acting in an unrealistic manner that certainly has nothing to do with Buddhism or any other religion. Even if you check from the scientific, materialistic point of view, it's unrealistic. Even ordinary non-religious people would easily see that this kind of mind is ridiculous. So what I am talking about here, when I tell you to generate a feeling of equality with all living beings in your mind and concentrate on it, well, the way to do the Mahayana equilibrium meditation is to first do analytical meditation, intellectualizing a little on the equality of all sentient beings. And then when you reach the point where at least intellectually you see their equality, let your mind remain in that feeling. Enjoy it. It's a remarkable experience. So now we're going to look at this clip where a student asked Rinpoche during the retreat a challenging question, and I think this is a really good one too. Yes, to think about. Let's see, where am I?
They usually have to get a microphone to the person, so it takes a minute.
Yeah.
If you had a partner that was on the seashore and your partner was drowning at sea, So there's that side. And there was someone else at exactly the same distance, but not your partner, drowning in the sea as well. Who would you choose?
What?
The second.
The two people drowning.
Yeah, two people drowning. The person on the beach can see the two people drowning, same distance away, but separated, quite a long way away. So they have to choose a person to go to rescue. Who do you rescue?
You ask so nice. Isn't that very simple? Isn't that very simple? Isn't that very simple?
Oh, the answer.
Yeah. What?
The answer is very simple. Well, not for me, but in principle it's simple. But the problem seems to be there for me.
You can't help. You can't manage both.
No.
So only you can manage one. Doesn't matter so much.
It doesn't
You
matter.
can't manage both. Okay, can't manage both. Then don't do anything. No, that's wrong. Oh, there are two people. Oh, I'll run away. I'll run. One partner? What? Did you say one partner?
A close person.
Huh?
Close person. The one not that they don't know who they are.
Yeah, so I think reality, even your friend, I don't understand you see, but she be sad. Because of that person, that you know that person, and that's why you don't have that wrong. That's wrong. Because he has spent part of my number of times. He's the other person who's spent now and part of my number of times. This is your friend now, but that one is your friend number of times.
But you still have to choose.
Yeah. So, I mean, there shouldn't be discrimination. There should not be discrimination. This is my brother, this is my friend. Oh, God help! Oh, because he helped me. Oh, that's wrong. It's wrong. It's discriminatory. Why not nothing but it's discriminatory? Yeah, the same thing has been friend, has been none of the times. It's only present time. You don't know what's in it, but you don't remember what the beginning is. It's the same, is it? Same.
They just got the one.
That's same. So you help without discriminatory. Then you have one that's good. Okay? But without discriminatory.
So that's kind of a big challenge to decide between two people, one of whom is very close to you and one who isn't. So how would we do that? We know this is a big piece to consider, at least it would be for me at this stage in my development. Yeah, Susie and Gary will help us with the mics. Anybody want to tackle this? What would you do in that situation, or do you think it's an unfair question? Yeah.
We've got a microphone.
Yeah, wait for the mic.
I guess the first thing that I was thinking about was, yeah, if you say, one is your friend and one's not. But on the other hand, what if one of them was your child and one was not? Naturally anyone's gonna, see their 8-year-old child and a adult, and they're gonna pick their 8-year-old child. I think naturally. No, I think one aspect they didn't address is like you could take other factors into. I mean, you wouldn't have that much time in the moment, but you could take other factors into consideration, like, trying to think like what has, one person might have been through more things, or one person might have circumstances in life that they're more likely to live a happy life. I mean, it sounds bad to say. I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying, though? Like, you could judge it by, like, their circumstances as well. Like, if one person's, a 70-year-old versus a 40-year-old, that, the 40-year-old has longer to live. Like, that would be an example of, like, judging by circumstance. Then at the same time, you wouldn't have that much time in the moment. So, but I think it would be something to take in consideration. You can't save both of them either way. So.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
There's one, Elise.
Elise?
Maybe I don't really understand things correctly, but from what I've read about karma, it makes me think that the reason you might be in this situation with these two different people, with one being more connected to you, is possibly because you have a strong karmic connection to them, which is the reason why people and circumstances come into your life, or you come to your life in these circumstances with these certain people. So my first thought would be the person that you have a relationship with that's drowning, you probably have a stronger karmic connection to them because possibly they saved you in a past life, so maybe it's your turn to save them or something. But that only helps me to think about why you're in that circumstance, but not how to move forward, because then maybe it's up to you to create a strong karmic connection with a person that you don't know.
In which lifetime, right?
Right. But, it just gives the first thought that comes to my mind is, why are you in that circumstance with these two people?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question.
Can you turn the lights on back?
Yeah. Anyone else?
I have a comment. I mean, I would just do it. I mean, it's one of those things that it presents, and I wouldn't beat myself up about it. I would just do it, and I'd probably end up doing helping the person I'm closer to, closer emotionally to. It's just the way it is right now for me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think Carl has one over here.
Yeah, Carl.
I was thinking, like, also maybe though the crab might be have been your mother or father, so you just let them both go and you'd be feeding your mother or father.
And you'd be what?
Drop the mic.
You'd be feeding.
Crab might have been your
Oh, the
parents'
crab.
evening. Yeah. Yeah. Susan, go ahead.
I'll just let
Susan Dan.
Okay. So, I instinctively, I would want to go to the person my friend. But it would really depend on the conditions. It might be that my friend is further out than the one.
I think they set it up as equal.
She set it up that
They
they're
set it up as equally.
to make it more
Okay.
difficult.
Yeah. I think instinctively I would want to save my friend. And so that just tells me that I do discriminate, and I will need to work on my mind.
Which is the point, right?
Yeah.
That's trying to
Yeah.
show us.
Yeah.
In the back, we have.
As an ordinary person, and at best only a baby bodhisattva, I think I would save the person that I'm connected to, my spouse or child or friend. Although I think, in my understanding, if someone were a highly developed bodhisattva, they would try to save both of them and die with them.
Yeah,
I
there
think
you go.
that's
Yeah.
what a highly developed bodhisattva would do. But
Yeah.
I'm not a highly developed bodhisattva. I try to save my wife.
Okay, show of hands who's highly developed bodhisattva in the room. So that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, who can swim?
Yeah.
There's a lot of conditions there.
Based
Okay,
on
this-
my
we-
last
there's-
birthday, I say go for the 70-year-old.
Aaron?
Yeah.
In the blue shirt.
What came to my mind was that it's fine to save your partner, the one that you're close to, but the motivation is what's really important, that you don't choose, I'm not saving the other person because I don't like them.
That's a good way to put that.
And it's not, if you're not making that active choice to do that wrong action, then I think it's okay to save your partner.
That raises a really good point. That was the last thing that Rinpoche said. You know, you do it without discriminating thoughts.
Mhm.
Yeah, that motivation of attachment is the one that's hard to overcome. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyone else?
There's
Yeah,
one right in the
good.
middle, yeah.
Here we are.
I heard Rinpoche say, maybe I was wrong, that it's bad to think of them as different.
He did say wrong. Yeah.
So why not immediately search for someone else to help you to save both of them? That's just what I was thinking.
That's a great solution. I
That would
like
be awesome.
Yeah. Go, Chris.
It beats the feed the crab.
So how would we develop that that lack of discriminating thought? Anybody have thoughts about that? Because all of us are saying, you know, where we're coming from,
We would
except for Chris, who's smart enough to look
look for help.
for help. How would we get past that immediate desire to save the one we're closer to? Any thoughts on that?
Right here.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know if it's a good one, but I'll share it. So, obviously, we're not going to not choose our loved one. I mean, that's just where we're all at, right?
Right.
But I think the purpose of this thought process is maybe think about if you didn't know either of them. So instead of saying one is a loved one and one isn't, look at them both as people that you don't know and think of them both as if they were a loved one.
That's nice, yeah. Because we're coming from, like the story you read for Lama Yeshe, if two people are standing at your door and you don't know them, I think most of us in the room would welcome both in. We would probably never say. So we can imagine that. That's not hard to imagine.
It's easy to say who you would say yes to, but
Right.
not who you would say no.
Right. And then we can imagine that we agree, we're all going to probably save our child or our loved one. It's just where we know most of us are without even knowing each other. Even if I don't know you in the room, I can probably assume we would do that. So the point is to think, how do you even start? So let's discuss, like, how would you even begin to turn your mind if here's a bodhisattva, here we are. Maybe we're over here. We're not even on the path hardly. So if we're down here, but we can get here, and today we're not talking about like the entire path of it, but if we're going to turn our mind, so what's the way that you would start to turn your mind so that you could even imagine, like how could you even start to imagine it? So let's talk about how you can. Chris has another one. Maybe he'll have the answer and we'll. Denise?
To think about that everybody wants the same thing we want, to be happy and not to suffer.
Right.
I think that's where we start.
That's where we start. Oh, was that what you were going to say, Chris?
Yeah. Everybody wants to be happy.
Everybody wants to be happy, okay.
I had a strange thing happen where I was watching some TV show and the people in the cast would be put up, ahead of the show as, this glitzy thing. And suddenly there was an actor, believe it or not, his name is Ice-T, who I looked in his eyes and I saw my father. Oh. And it was amazing. So it helps me to look in someone's eyes.
Ah. See beyond. Who they are?
Then I see myself, no matter what the eyes look like.
That's nice. Yeah, thank you.
I kind of like Rinpoche's solution of just run away.
Well, I like his first solution. What was the first thing he said? Do you guys remember? When he ask His Holiness.
Yeah.
Because the lag in the timing, it's kind of hard. It looked like she knew what he was going to say, which is not quite true. So, so the first thing he said was, and you may not have heard him, ask His Holiness, because it's like we just want to go, I don't know, ask somebody else. But, you know, we're investigating here together in a safe place to say, so we're looking at someone with the eyes of, how did you put it? Like myself?
Like myself.
Like myself?
Like
or a
a
loved
close
one. You saw your
relative,
father. So.
yes.
Okay, what else do we have? What other tools can we pull out? Right behind you, Gary?
Yeah.
I think one of the things we often don't do is stop to ask the other person what they need. Maybe there's one person who can't swim and can't come in and can't do it for themselves, and maybe the other person's just fine. But by appearances, they both have the same need. So if we stop and ask each other what it is that we actually need, then we can do a better job on focusing on taking care of each other.
That's good.
Good point. Yeah.
I know that helps our relationship, Donna, when we ask each other and we say,
Yeah.
you know, how can I support you?
Yeah.
What do you need? And
Yeah.
it's really helpful to think, because how often do you actually get asked yourself? So it's nice to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay. When I was watching the clip, and I'm listening to her wanting an answer, and him not even like, this isn't even a thought, like, you know. And so I'm sitting here wondering, what is it where for him in his position, he doesn't even think about stuff like this. It's not even a thought. But for us, we're really like racking our brains. What will we do? You know, and he's just like, whatever, you know? So, yeah, so it's like that whole thought process. Like, where do we get to the point in our society where we're not even thinking about stuff like that?
And you don't mean that in a negative way. You mean that in like...
In a positive way.
You meant, yeah, because it's like it doesn't cross your mind because you already have equanimity.
Yeah. Yes,
right.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a non-issue.
Non-issue.
And for us, it is such an, I mean, we're sitting here,
torture.
you know, which is a great exercise, you know, but I'm sitting here thinking, wow, this is like a really big issue for us. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, what if it was like my husband and my daughter? Well,
Sophie's
I don't know
choice.
which one I'd probably choose, but you know, like these are the things that we ask ourselves almost on a daily basis, and then you look at them and like at Gestalt, and you ask them these kind of questions, they're just kind of like, what?
Yeah.
Like, this is what you think about, you know? So I just wanted to make that point.
That's good that they don't even, it doesn't cross their mind because so if we could imagine we had equanimity, I mean, can you even, in the meditation this morning, isn't it hard to even think that you can have it?
Yeah.
Even the idea that you could get there is so beyond our scope that the question just stifles us almost. Like, I don't know. So that's the thing we have to do is discuss more and more like, well, then if it is possible, how did they get there?
Apparently it is possible.
So it is possible. So then you'd have to agree, is it possible? You could talk about that, or you can say, so if it is, if A equals B and B equals C. And A equals
Or take it another step. Let's look at, what if one of them, go ahead, Linda, and then I'll.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to follow up with what Susie said is, you know, she saw her father in Ice-T's eyes. So if one of the ways we can kind of think about it is that we've all been each other's parents and mothers and in previous lives. And just remembering that over and over. It's still hard.
Yeah.
We're not not
We
connected.
Someone in the back.
One of the many things I love about Buddhism, one of the many things I like about Buddhism is that it's a big picture religion. And, you know, even though every one of us has a long ways to go, we have a long time to do it. Important thing is we're getting better rather than getting worse. You know, someone once said if we can improve 10% per lifetime, we'll be enlightened in 10 lifetimes. And that's not a bad way to look at it.
Yeah. I remember years ago, the first time I heard Geshe-la saying, take it slowly, it's going to take eons and eons, which can sound very intimidating, but for me it was so comforting. It was like, oh, yeah, because I know that I'm eons and eons away from reaching that point, so knowing that it can take a long time is encouraging when you feel like you have a long way to go. So you're right, big picture.
We did that at one of the foundation trainings. We had to come up with a poster for burnout. So we had to just, what would you do if you're feeling kind of, and these are for people working at the center and volunteering. And I think one of them was, we combined Lama Yeshe's, it's okay, dear. Let's see, how does he say it? Good enough, dear. So we said, good enough, dear, you've got eons. I mean, when you think about it, it's like you have a long time to get this, and you're not bad if you're not there right now, right? Nobody of us would feel judging each other because we're all in the same boat. And like Aaron's wearing the shirt today. What does it say?
Think something good.
I mean, that you got to start somewhere, right? You have to think something good.
So what if we were in that situation? I'm just going to make it a little more, even more challenging. What if one other person was somebody you've got a lot of history with, and it's negative history, and you don't like that person at all, and you really would kind of be glad if they if they weren't, not that they drowned, but you just would be glad if you never had to deal with that person again. And then the other person was a complete stranger to you. So how do you, one of them is a person you really feel a lot of aversion to, and someone else is a stranger. And what is at play? The thing that we're really trying to get to is what is at play in all these quandaries. Is it our attachment? Is it our, is it our lack of equanimity? So any thoughts on what you'd do if it was a stranger and an enemy?
It seems to me like that situation that we're talking about there is we may face the same thing with our friends or people in our community where one by one we see them having difficulties and then we have to decide whether to try to help. But let's go back to that drowning situation. Obviously, you don't just make one decision at one instant and then that finalizes everything. Instead, let's say at first you have to decide which one am I going to try to help first, and probably you would do that. It's a very desperate circumstance. You try to see whether the first person can get calmed down. Maybe they do know how to swim a little. Maybe they can begin to do that. Then that would give you time to go look at person number two and see if you could help them. And the whole thing unfolds in some crazy way. It probably would seem like it's all going by in a blur. You're just doing all you can, and you don't know how it's going to turn out. But obviously, at any one instant, you've got to pick somebody to try to help. And if you're a good person, I'm sure we'd all do that, as long as we can manage to swim ourselves. And, and we would go from there. We don't know how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
It'd be the kind of the same way. You have friends, you come upon people that are homeless, or one is dealing with alcoholism, or all kinds of different things, and you don't really know how much you can do, but maybe you decide to try to start. And you may know more than one person in that situation, and you just do what you can without knowing in the long run what the outcome is going to be.
No expectations, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Edna?
Monica?
Monica.
Okay, well, my question is, if I'm in an island or something like that, and there are only two people there, they're drowning, and I have to choose one, whether it's a loved one and a total stranger, somebody I don't like, and a total stranger, I think, even though I try to do something good, in my mind, my self-preservation comes in hand, and I'm thinking, well, I know this person knows how to light fire. I know this person will be a good provider. I don't know this person, so do I go towards the person that will be able to take care of me and then encourage the other one to swim with us or try to go back and help them? Because even though you're trying to do good, you also want to help yourself. So how would you deal with that?
Yeah. So what do you think is operating in that when you're making that calculation?
Well, I don't want to think that you're being selfish, but you also have to preserve yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's all
All right,
tough.
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So 2 thoughts I had while you were saying that. One is the self-preservation part of it. I'm not a good swimmer. And chances are if I were going to go out and try to save someone, I would probably end up drowning myself. So maybe what karmic seeds did they sow that allowed them to be in a situation where they're both out there drowning in the first place is one thought to have. And then the other part of that, when you made the comment about, is it selfish, that made me think of something, because isn't it selfish anyway to only have positive feelings towards someone when you can see yourself in them?
Ask Donna.
That's no, that's a really good question, but I would turn that back to saying that's actually one of the tools that is used to help us train ourselves to see others with equanimity, that we do begin from that point of selfishness. Well, whether we should or not, it's where we're at, or at least speaking for myself. So, we use that as saying, okay, if I can see myself in this person, if I can see that this person, just like me, wants to be happy, doesn't want to suffer, wants to keep living, wants to be safe, then that actually, we can use our own selfishness as a starting point to defeat our selfishness, which is really kind of cool. Yeah.
Okay. I think about the conversation. Part of me says that, if I had absolute equanimity, part of me says that it wouldn't really matter. Like, as soon as I saw that one of them was drowning, I would just go to save them. Assuming that I somehow knew that there was no chance I could save both of them or something like that. So if I had absolute equanimity, right, the first one I noticed was drowning, I would just go save them, because it wouldn't make a difference which one it was. But then on the other hand, it kind of brings me back to my first point, what some other people have said, like circumstances. Like, for example, if I know that one of them has 5 kids and that they're a single parent and those kids are not going to have a parent, if I don't save this person, and the other person's, is not in that circumstance, like that's going to be factored into my decision. Or and I can understand what other people are saying as far as, self-preservation. If one of them is capable of building fires and stuff like that, it could be that one of them was a leader of some sort of, civil rights movement or something, some huge global movement that I know they're head of that movement, and that, whatever they're going to do is going to save and help a lot more people. Or it could be someone I have aversion towards, that if I feel like there's some leader of some bad movement that's going to hurt a lot of people, so, which I guess to some extent is all somewhat discriminatory. Well, I guess it kind of depends on what your motives are. But it's definitely a good question,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you just made 2 really good points. You repeated Rinpoche's point. It's discriminatory. We're all trying to figure out how can we, what is the element that we can use to discriminate, in a correct way. And Rinpoche said you can't. And then, shoot, I forgot what the other point was you just made. But. Sorry? Well, that's also
It's all discriminating.
Discriminating thought, But the thing is that we actually lack the wisdom to really know. You might look at somebody and say, well, this person's 40 and that one's 70, or this person knows how to start a fire. But if the other one is a stranger, you don't know, maybe that person would know how to create food for you. We don't really know. We can look and say, well, I think I know what the value is that this person is going to have if they keep living, but we don't really know. There's more. Yeah, go ahead.
Brenda.
Hi, Brenda.
Hello. The problem with this type of scenario is that you have to choose between two people.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, the enemy or the other person that you know. Either way, whether you choose the enemy, let's say that you're going to be, fair, so to speak. But how can you really be fair? Because if you save the enemy just because you don't want to be discriminating, then you're going to be letting the other one die. So either way is the wrong thing to do. Whether it is because you are discriminating or you're not discriminating, one of them will die.
Mm-hmm.
So to this, you can add another scenario that is even more difficult than that one. Let's say that it is a human being, your enemy, and your dog,
Mm-hmm.
that is your beloved dog. So now what do? You go for your species because that one is a human, but that is a person that has done wrong to you, or what about a criminal and a dog?
Mm-hmm.
So it is very difficult to choose in these scenarios, and I think it's a little bit unfair to make that actually put that scenario into practice into perspective, because either way is the wrong thing to do. It doesn't matter whether you save the enemy or the dog or the other one. Well, in my case, I know what I will do.
Yeah.
It's just the way that I think.
Yeah.
It boils down, I think, to a great extent to a utilitarian alternative, where the gentleman was saying, well, what about if this one has 5 children, and the other one is a criminal and he's not going to do anything good for society? It boils down to a utilitarian, choice. So this is kind of scenario that probably also, if you are in that moment, you really don't have much of a time to be thinking, oh, excuse me, let me philosophize about this. Who am I going to say first? It's actually what comes right to your mind in that very instant. And if it is my beloved dog and the criminal, well, there's not much that I'm going to say. I'm going to go for the dog. The dog is definitely a good animal, it's a good living being, and the other one is a piece of trash. Get rid of him. I'm sorry, that's how I think.
Well, I think the point is also to just, the scenario is to show us where our mind is. It isn't that the outcome is ever going to be good.
Yeah.
But the point is to say we're trying to see that where is our mind in this choice.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts, but
Is it on?
let's see. I think there's a flaw in the question itself, because it's already implying that you're emotionally attached to someone, the original question. So you're already not a bodhisattva. It's saying that you are emotionally connected to a person. And I was actually in a situation like this.
Oh.
But it was animals. It was, the ice was out in the lake in one spot, and a wild dog was chasing deer out into the lake. And we did not like wild dogs in that area at that time, because they're really causing a lot of havoc with the deer population, and they all went in the water.
Oh my goodness.
And we found a boat, broke through the ice, and made our way out there. And even though when we got there, we wanted to save all of them, even though we had this hatred towards these wild dogs in us already, but we saw them all as lives that,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people would try to save both
Mhm.
somehow, or figure out a way
Mhm.
to save both.
Yeah.
Wow, that's.
I think it comes down to this basic thing about life.
Mhm.
We all do things in our lives that other people might not like, but I think we all know that we're basically good people somewhere down there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard to put yourself in that position.
Did you save them?
Pardon?
Did you save them?
They didn't. None of them made it.
Oh, heavens.
But I think they were already pretty much gone by the time we got there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was also the shock of people grabbing them,
Oh.
and trying to pull them in by boat.
Yeah.
I think they were just shocked by, oh my God, this person. They're already just,
Right.
we were so
Yeah.
ingrained in them to I guess it went both ways. You know,
Yeah.
oh my God, a person. Oh,
Right.
Yeah. It was kind of, it was this really emotional experience.
Oh,
We
yeah.
found a big rock to pull them all up on, but none of them made it.
Oh, heavens.
Yeah.
But when we were out there in the boat, we went for all of them.
Good for you.
And I think also in that situation, assuming that you're already emotionally attached to someone, emotion can be really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
An instinct is powerful. And you can use that. I mean, it would make me swim twice as fast to that person. It may give you a chance to actually save someone or both of them where you normally wouldn't. You know, so.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Walk on water for
Right,
Yeah.
right. Lori, I think has.
It's on?
Yeah.
Hello? This is not what I was going to say originally, but to this gentleman's point, it was about his intention. You know, even though none of the animals survived, it was the intention to save them. And I'm going to relate that back to what the previous speaker had said, in that, well, if you choose one, then, and I don't remember her exact terminology, but, you know, you're intentionally letting the other one die. And I don't think that that's true. I think it's about setting your intention.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember, you know, eons ago, Venerable Rabina talking about, you know, it's one thing to do a really good thing. It's a completely other thing to have the intention of doing a really positive good thing, because that kind of changes everything, you know, molecularly. But my original thing that I was going to mention is, and this goes back to the question that you initially posed on it, the person that you've had the negative, you know, personal history with versus a stranger. Well, you know, if you can keep your mind pure and your intention positive, you know, maybe Chris's idea, maybe you get somebody, you know, everybody had really, you know, great ideas that you could interweave. If you're able to help that person that you have that negative history with, look what that does to both of your karmas in an instant.
Yeah.
In an instant,
Yeah.
you know. So that was my one point. But the thing that was in the back of my mind throughout this whole conversation is I was thinking, what if that person was like a Roy Moore or certain other people that we know of, or a Harvey Weinstein? It's like, that would really change it for me, and that would make it especially difficult. So it's just my thought.
And that brings us back to the point Jill just made. This is a great exercise for looking at,
Just trying to look.
you know, what we're able to do. Okay, there's someone over here. Yeah.
Hi. I think the main thing that, just looking at this as a thought process, is to take all of the external factors that we're talking about, because we can say, oh, this person could build a fire, oh, this person could do that, but that's not the point of thinking about it. The point of thinking about it is to understand that we need to look at people in a different way and, you know, get rid of our attachments. And if we think about it in kind of like a realistic standpoint, we're going to be like, oh yeah, it saved my kid. But that's not the point of thinking about it. The point of thinking about it is to work on your attachment. And I think that's what we need to take away from basically what he said.
Yeah.
Great.
Good
point. Yeah.
So this has been a very interesting conversation, and I agree with this gentleman here, where if it was two neutral parties, if there was a child drowning and there was an adult drowning, I would just intrinsically jump and save the child. That's what I would do. But I was thinking in extremes, that if you had your child was drowning and Hitler is drowning, so we're just going to take it all the way out, where right now you have two people that you are in control. One of them is going to die if you do not save them. But if you take it a step further, if you know that saving this person could inevitably lead to more people dying, now you're in control of maybe thousands of people dying based on this one decision. So what I was struggling with right now is that maybe equanimity is not always the perfect answer in that regard, because if your child and this mass murderer is drowning, if you save this mass murderer, if you're indifferent to these two things happening, then essentially your actions could lead to more people dying.
Yeah. So, and you're raising, you know, that other point that most of us, you know, is wisdom. The wisdom
Right.
and you know, knowledge that allows us to
know what to do.
Know what to do and
Sure.
which choice to make. Yeah.
The Netflix original.
I would say that I definitely agree with you because it is a repercussion of, there is a repercussion between saving the criminal, so to speak, and the other person that is absolutely innocent or actually could be a good person for society, So if you also, on the other hand, if I get rid of my attachments, now what? So what is the good thing? What is the right thing to do then? You save the criminal or you save the person that is good for society? Now what? So if I get rid of that detachment, I'm not attached to any one of them. Now what? Who do I save? That's the problem.
Yeah, and you
just can't do it.
We just have to live with the consequences.
You flip a coin.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's not,
yeah,
it's not pleasant.
It's because we lack the wisdom. Sometimes,
But what is the wisdom? If you're unattached, okay, I'm not attached to you. I'm not attached to you.
Yeah.
I need to say one of you. Now what? Who do I choose? In the moment that you choose, you're already discriminating, whether you want it or not. Now, if you have the opportunity to say, okay, I can say both of you in one way or another if I do this or I do that, but in the moment that you choose, you're already discriminating. It's inevitable.
You are your choice is a discrimination, but as Rinpoche said, without discriminating thought. So your motivation is not, I'm choosing you because I prefer you. It's just, I can only choose one. Heads it's this person, tails it's that person. It came up heads, it's you. And I want to bring up something. I had this conversation with a few people a couple of weeks ago too, and one person made the really good point, because we were all struggling with, what's the wrong choice? If I do this, it's going to be wrong. If I do that, I'm, letting somebody die. And he pointed out, don't forget, you're actually doing a positive thing because you are saving one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing what you can.
But
and that's, we do what we can.
But the problem here is that you're asking who to, you have to choose. You have to inevitably choose.
You have to
even
choose.
if they both are in
but
the
we're
same
talking about
place.
the mind, Brenda, not just
the mind, not the action. We can't help the fact that the action.
So how, now my question to you. So so I'm unattached now. Now that I am unattached from these people, how do I make that decision to choose who to let live?
Yeah.
How do I do this?
Flip a coin.
So it just wouldn't matter. I just jump in and okay, well, you know what?
Yeah.
You're closer to me.
But it isn't like it's a flippant thing. Nobody's saying anything flippant. It's that we're just simply trying to say that the mind, we're trying to work towards how do we get the mind to not discriminate. So we're trying to investigate how could we change our minds so that we aren't always discriminating, because we're doing it at a level all day long when we just decide who to speak to, who to talk to. So that's what we're trying to do, is how do we get the mind to be more neutral in general.
Yeah. We got one here.
Well, I just wanted to point out that we all are coming at this from the idea that death is bad. But it's part of this process we're in. And maybe if the person dies, they will have a better rebirth. Maybe we should be thinking of ways to make it easier. No, not
it's
to
better.
feed the
It's
crowd,
good for you.
but death is not necessarily always a bad process for us to go through. I don't know.
Great point.
It is an
Lauren.
outcome.
Yeah.
It's just simply an outcome.
It's an outcome, and then we start another part of our journey.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Very good point.
Yeah, and also building on that, when we've talked about somebody might be a criminal or somebody might be, might have acted heroically, that's up until this point. We don't know if being rescued from drowning, we don't know what the person who's been a criminal would do in the future. We don't know.
Exactly.
That person might change and really make use of their life, and the other person might not. So we don't have the way of knowing. The 70-year-old might be this close to enlightenment.
Well, if we had clairvoyance, if we had equanimity, we'd probably have some clairvoyance too, right? So we might know.
Okay, there's one in the back.
I want to go back to the question about the gentleman in front about saving Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case we saved Hitler, because everyone has the potential to be a Buddha, he may have turned around and he may have not killed, instead of 1 million people, maybe 100,000. He could have, if you have showed him compassion in early life,
right,
he may not have become the person we all hate.
I think we have a Netflix original on them in the making here. Saving Hitler.
I always look at someone as, always, this problem is too hard for me. It's something that I think I benefit from thinking of someone who's difficult as Buddha. Maybe not the most difficult person in my life. However, I'm in the supermarket, somebody does something, and I look at them as, I try to look at them as, maybe that's Buddha, maybe I need to learn.
Take it down a notch, right? Yeah.
A lot of notches.
A lot of notches. I've been playing with an exercise, and I wrote about it, so it'll come out Monday, but to see what this sounds like, I'm always willing to take a risk. If there's someone really difficult in your life, and we did that, so just bring that person to mind, and you just, not that, I'm not saying you wish someone dead, so just, you imagine, oh, I just wish they weren't in my life, like you had said. So you're not wishing them dead, but you just wish you might not have met them. We can imagine that, right? So just play with it. So I was playing with that one day, and I thought, and instantly something arises that's a little uncomfortable, because that's a difficult thought. So because I watch a show that does a lot of imaginings, I thought, I'm giving their eulogy. So I was instantly, this is just daydreaming, just giving their eulogy, and I was standing up there, and the first things, there's some zingers, because you're like, and everybody laughs because they all know him, and you say like, well, he was a, and people think it's funny, so they're laughing, and then it was so interesting because what arose, tenderness just came in. Like then you start, you can imagine the big chill and all those movies, and then you say, and he was this, she was that, and then the sweetness started to come out. So now what I do is I do it on purpose. So I just instantly just think I'm giving the eulogy, and the bad stuff goes right away because you really don't wish them dead. And you want them to be happy. But sometimes we can't want somebody to be happy until we actually are faced with a terribly difficult situation. So that's what this is about, is being faced with a Sophie's Choice. It's a horrible situation. So nobody's saying it's easy. Nobody's saying it's fun.
And I think Lori made a really good point about, the whole idea of taking these kind of difficulties into our spiritual practice and recognizing that when you have an opportunity to do something extremely beneficial for someone you have regarded as your enemy, which means that, as several people pointed out, you have strong karma with that individual, then to do something really beneficial for that person really purifies that karma, and then they're no longer, that obstacle and difficulty in your life. So, wow.
And where does that start?
Amazing.
In our minds. We have to do it in our minds first, because we don't want to be faced with the ocean right now. We just want to be able to do little playings in your minds with ideas. Sure. And that's what softens the heart. So we have a few more minutes. Do you want to, anybody else have some?
We welcome children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to say something?
That would be awesome.
I had a question for you. So, are you talking about the Geico commercial where where two kids are running a lemonade stand and people are driving by and they're like, iced tea? And they're like, no, it's lemonade. Read the sign. Lemonade.
I haven't seen that. No, it's the beginning of Law and Order that I watched years ago.
Now I have to watch that. That's good. Thank you.
I think on that note, that's a good one. Let's go ahead and wrap up.
Before
Unless
you do
there's
that,
any other points. Oh.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if we're trying to just find those little pieces, and if it's really difficult and you want some sources, this is the first retreat that Rinpoche taught, and we have it offered for donation only, free, on the Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive rack, Bodhisattva Attitude. So this literally is the first retreat. Some people don't know that, so I just like to remind people. So in it, he's going to talk about ways. How many people have heard of Taking the Essence, the book Taking the Essence Day and Night? Goodness, Donna, we need to talk about that sometime. That'll be the next one. Yeah. And then, so how many people have noticed little signs on the doors and things where you see around the building? So that's Taking the Essence. He's asking us in every moment to think about sentient beings every moment. So that's the way. We need some kind of method, to equalize. And so thinking of all beings every time you're doing any action of body, speech, and mind all day long. So there's, I think it's called Taking the Essence Day and Night, and we don't have it in the bookstore right now, but it's something you can order on FPMT too.
Yeah, and those are really powerful practices, and if you really just took one of them, like one of them I still don't manage to do every day, but when I'm in the shower, just trying to think I'm washing away all the negative karma of all sentient beings. I've always thought that if you took like 2 or 3 of these kinds of practices, and every time you open the door, you think, I'm opening the door to enlightenment for all sentient beings, and every time you're washing, you think about washing away all the karma.
Walking
and if
down
you
here.
didn't do anything else in your life, but you really integrated those, that would be one heck of a powerful life. So, okay. Let us dedicate. So we'll go to page 246 in the gold prayer book, or on the back of the printed sheet in the white notebook. And let's begin. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective, and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you. And just a couple of, 7 Tara mantras for the long, happy, healthy lives of Geshe Geluk and Geshe Sangpo. Om Tare Tu Re So Ha. 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 And just a couple of quick announcements. Kim is here for the, if you are interested in attending the orientation for becoming a member.
New member.
For becoming a new member. She will help you with that. Are you going to do that right here in the Gampa? Okay. And then we had a couple of Kadampa Center families doing a Dharma Treasures. There's nothing left. Okay. So they may be gone, but they were they're downsizing, and they had some of their Dharma items on offer here. So go take a look at the tables outside, and there may still be some goodies. And Elise, you have something?
Yes, this Thursday, November 16th, there's an interfaith celebration of Thanksgiving at Temple Beth Or. It's also a food drive, and the details are on the web. And if you can't make it to that, but you want to contribute somehow, we will be collecting food starting today through Thanksgiving weekend.
Okay, and Geshe Geluk should be back next month, so yay for that. Thank you. Have a great day.